Leigha Genduso versus Aidan Kearney, docket number 629-2021, DV 174. This is a final hearing on a domestic violence petition. Could I ask the parties to please identify themselves for the record?
Your Honor, Leigha Genduso.
All right, thank you.
Attorney Andrew Couture for Aidan Kearney.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Aidan Kearney.
All right, thank you very much. Could I ask anyone who's going to offer testimony today to please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give this morning will be the truth under pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
All right, you can have a seat. Is there, ma'am, you have the burden of proof here today, so I'm going to hear from you first, all right? And then I'm going to let Mr. Kearney have an opportunity to respond through his counsel. Before we get going, is there anything that we need to address?
Yes, Your Honor, I have a motion to dismiss for lack of personal jurisdiction.
All right. Have you seen the motion to dismiss, ma'am?
I have it.
And
I filed a petition back in response to last Thursday.
so you object to, you filed an affidavit, I see.
Yes, I did write it.
All right, so you've received a copy and you object to the motion to dismiss. Let me hear arguments on the motion to dismiss first, please.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. As I mentioned earlier, Your Honor, I represent Mr. Aidan Kearney. He is a resident of the state of Massachusetts, or the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I should say. And this case is standard lack of personal jurisdiction, Your Honor. As you know, Your Honor, there's a two-pronged test that Ms. Genduso needs to meet if the court is going to have personal jurisdiction up here in the state of New Hampshire. First of all, we need to, court jurisdictions typically involve a two-part analysis. First, under the state's long-arm statute, and second, under the due process clause. New Hampshire's long-arm statute provides any person who's not an inhabitant of this state who commits a tortuous act within the state submits himself to the jurisdiction of the courts of this state. The defendant has not committed any tortuous acts here in New Hampshire, nor has he committed any of the other acts detailed in the aforementioned statute, which would subject him to the jurisdiction of this state. Even in Ms. Genduso's response to my motion, she states that they may have went out to dinner a year ago, over a year ago, Your Honor. There's been nothing that would subject my client to the jurisdiction of New Hampshire. In fact, she even mentions in her response that he had another restraining order here in New Hampshire, which was subsequently dismissed because of lack of personal jurisdiction. Mr. Kearney is a resident of Massachusetts. Secondly, the second prong, the test for personal jurisdiction, and still cannot be satisfied as well as the first one, the due process clause of the 14th Amendment, to which the United States Constitution permits personal jurisdiction over a defendant in any state with which the defendant has certain minimal context such that the maintenance of the suit does not offend traditional notions of fair play and substantial justice. Here, defendant has no contacts in the state of Massachusetts, let alone minimal ones, so the case still cannot proceed. As I explained before, Your Honor, the defendant does not maintain a residence here, he does not transact business here, nor does he commit any kind of acts which would subject him to the jurisdiction of Massachusetts. There's nothing here. It should be dismissed forthwith. And the tradition of notion of fair play and substantial justice would severely offend if this action were permitted to continue. So, Your Honor, obviously, he hasn't done anything here. Just to review, he hasn't done anything in the state which would subject him to the jurisdiction. He does not transact business here, he does not live here, and even if you may want to consider that having a dinner for over a year ago in the state of New Hampshire would subject him to personal jurisdiction, which I would say strains credibility, Your Honor, the court still cannot compel him to do affirmative acts. And that is cited in Hemingway versus Hemingway, which is a 2010 case, which is substantially similar to the one at bar here, Your Honor. In the case of Hemingway, the defendant was ordered to surrender his firearms following the issuance of a protective order. But that portion of the order was later rescinded as it was determined that they could not compel him to do an affirmative act because of the lack of jurisdiction that they had. So even if you want to find that there's personal jurisdiction, the court has no control in Mr. Carney as a Massachusetts resident.
Thank you, Attorney Couture. Appreciate it. Ma'am? I want to hear from you with respect to the motion to dismiss filed on behalf of Mr. Carney.
Your Honor, so in response to the motion to dismiss, there's a couple things that I want to articulate from what I've received and what I've reviewed. First off, Mr. Kearney lied about not being in New Hampshire for 2 years in that motion to dismiss. Obviously, I have proof, a copy for the defendant as well as stating that the restraining order was May 19, 2020. When he was here, not to mention the fact of the multiple times that we did go to dinner at 𝗕𝗏𝗂𝗧 as well as to casino room in Salem, New Hampshire. Secondly, the restraining order that I'm referring to had absolutely nothing to do with domestic violence. It was harassment sued by another attorney. However, I wanted to show that to you to document that he was actually in the state of New Hampshire where he was not. Thirdly, my mother lives 6.6 miles away from the defendant here. I frequent there, she's elderly. He knows where she lives. I also work in Massachusetts, so it's not just New Hampshire that I'm speaking of, I'm in Massachusetts weekly, sometimes 6 times a week. So I frequent the very close proximity to where he lives. Fourth, I have a defendant's copy as well for him. Since the restraining order was given in September, he has stated multiple times about revenge. He's threatened revenge. I have something I would like to play, if you would allow me, which tells him about going on revenge and how he's going to get back. I am in fear for my life, Your Honor.
Okay, so let me, I want to see what evidence Ms. Genduso produces in connection with this hearing, so I'm going to hold or...
The only thing that I object to is she's getting into the merits of the restraining order.
Right, I understand.
We're solely talking about jurisdictional issues, Your Honor. If Ms. Genduso has an issue in Massachusetts, she should go to Massachusetts and get a restraining order.
Your Honor, I love this district court.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I need to hear how I need to hear more evidence about what Ms. Genduso has to tell the court today. So I'm going to hold ruling on the motion to dismiss in advance, pending the end of the presentation of evidence. With that in mind, thank you, Attorney Couture, for your representations on the motion to dismiss. Thank you, ma'am, for your representations in connection with the objection. What I want to do now is give you the opportunity to present the evidence that you want to present in support of your burden in this case. So if you wouldn't mind beginning your presentation, and you can testify from there. If you so desire, and you can remain seated if you'd like.
Your Honor, I'd like to review all the information I gave you in the packet, exposes all the evidence highlighted as well as noted in all situational paragraphs, which basically shows one, I'm receiving my fiance, who's in the back as well as I have numerous blocked calls. I received a threatening text from an unknown number. Mr. Kearney has multiple times contacted my fiance as well as his ex, which is the mother of his child, saying egregious things such as that His dog was gonna get mauled to death by a dog because I work with protection dogs. He had somebody actually drive to my house from 𝗏𝗏𝗡, which is over an hour and a half, to come to my house and advise me that he wants me to call him. When I stated no the next day, suddenly there was a harassment suit that he tried to obtain in Lancaster Court, which was not, it was denied. And the judge advised me to come to Concord to get an RO if I was that much in fear, which was approved. And if he may have played something that he has on his YouTube show, which talks about his insatiable desire to recatch.
Well, so I have in front of me your domestic violence petition filed on September 23rd, is that right? Do you affirm all the contents of your petition? I also have an affidavit dated September 23rd. And do you want the court to consider all of your allegations in that?
Yes.
All right, and is everything in your affidavit and in your petition, do they remain true? Were they true when you wrote them?
Yes,
Do they remain true today?
sir.
All right, so if you could just very pointedly describe for the court why you seek orders of protection from the court.
It's all of the basis for the restraining order. I'm afraid for my life. He has mental health issues where he's told me he's going to commit suicide if I stop talking to him. He's had his friends drive all the way from Massachusetts up to my residence, which my fiance was also present and accounted for when she came up, to try to get me to speak to him. He is very well known online as a blogger and he's threatened multiple times to make blogs about me. I'm afraid to go to my mom's house. I've seen him drive by my former house. I am in fear. And it's not. It's on a physical aspect. I am afraid that the damage that he could be to my family, not just me, but my family as well, which is just
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to present?
if I may play this.
Well, can you describe for counsel and for Mr. Kearney what it is you want the court to consider?
I want to consider this for a full year restraining order.
No, I'm sorry. You just said that you wanted to offer something into evidence. Could you describe for us
Yes,
what it is that you want to present, please?
it's his YouTube show. That's a public show online that he makes comments about his insatiable thirst for revenge and to make sure he gets it when he can, in the time he's ready.
And just by way of further explanation about what this is, when is it from?
It was from, actually after the harassment order was denied, it was the very next day from Lancaster Court. So the day that I obtained the domestic violence order here.
Can you identify a date, ma'am, please?
Tuesday, September 14th.
Of 2021?
Correct. When was our, let me just check, I need to verify, it was the exact day after, so which was, the date was on. 9/24/21, I apologize. I just have to make sure that. So it was the day exactly after my restraining order was approved.
All right, Attorney Couture, do you have a position with respect to this?
Yes, Your Honor, I do. First and foremost, Your Honor, Ms. Genduso cannot identify that these numbers are coming from my client. You know, she says that I'm getting text messages from random.
Oh, sorry, I wanna ask you about her request to enter into evidence.
I watch Mr. Kearney's show all the time. I am, a fan of his, but I object to anything like that coming in. She hasn't provided it to me, nor has she referenced it in any kind of motion that she put forward. This is the first time I'm hearing of it. I don't think it should come in.
So I think the basis for your objection is that you haven't heard it. Why don't I let you play it for counsel so that he has a chance to hear it, okay? And how long is it? Okay, I'm gonna take a recess for a minute, all right, and give you the opportunity to.
I just request that my client's able to hear it too.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. You guys can play it in the courtroom when I'm not present, all right? And I'll give you that two minutes to take care of this, all right? Thank you. It is in the matter of Leigha Genduso versus Aidan Kearney. The parties. All right, so we have before us Ms. Genduso's request for the court to hear a segment of a broadcast, as I understand it. Attorney Couture, have you had the chance to hear it?
Yes, I have, Your Honor.
And do you object to its
I do object, Your Honor. First things first, seeing these posts, the videos that she references has no bearing on this case. It doesn't even refer to her by name. There's nothing there. It refers to a state trooper and does not suggest anything other than a state trooper. There's no specifics. There's no nothing, Your Honor. In fact, when she claims that he's talking about revenge, no name was ever given.
Okay.
There's nothing there. And she references an article that she would like to produce to the court, but the original story dates back to February of 2018, long before this. She claims that there's a date on there of October 4th where she was referenced in an article written by my client, who is a noted journalist.
Okay.
So it has no bearing on this case whatsoever, Your Honor.
Thank you, Attorney Couture. So you're not contesting, you're conceding that this is your client's
Yes.
words?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to admit it. I understand your arguments. I'm going to admit it and give it the weight that it deserves on the basis of the objections that you made. Okay. So, ma'am, go ahead and you can play this for the court.
Your Honor, I would also state the reference to the article, which was actually a violation of the restraining order. He changed it a couple days later, but he did post on October 4th a blog regarding chiefs of police and then a disgraced state trooper. Click on that. I have the video capture, and it goes back to when he wrote about 8 years ago.
Just one thing at a time. If you could just play the excerpt from the broadcast. I'm sorry, I can't hear that. Maybe counsel and Ms. Genduso, you could come up and put that on the table here and restart it so I can hear it.
I haven't checked her page to tell me actually, I'm not sure. I didn't get any angry messages. I've kind of been busy the last couple of days, not a lot of court shit to deal with. So it's kind of kept me occupied, but yeah, trust me, this is a bigger story than this. Trust me. And let's put it this way, guys. Turtleboy always wins. Always. I don't know why people think that it's a wise idea to math, but I just I'm hold on to everything. And I have a thirst, an insatiable thirst for winning. And you underestimate that, as well as revenge. I have an insatiable thirst for revenge. So I'm a raging cunt. Raging cunt. So I wouldn't recommend that's the best way to put it. I'm not kicking your ass, not a cunt guy or anything like that. But I'm smart. I'm really good. You can't beat me. Ratchets, you can't beat me. Bring it on. Bring it on. Pussies. Pussies. Next.
That's all I have.
Oh, con.
Okay. Is there more?
Yes, Your Honor, I would like to show you this one. You have to view it though. It goes to show that on October 4th, which I can show you the actual blog. He posts a blog and then references me, and this is post restraining order. So right there, if you click that.
No, that's why you're looking, Your Honor, it's February of 2018 on top.
The old that he referenced to, but this was October 4th, and I can show you on my phone that the blog is, as I just showed counsel.
Okay. You guys can go back to your
Thank you very
seats.
much.
Ms. Genduso, can you tell the court why you think that the defendant in this matter was referencing you in the language that we just heard?
Your Honor, it was right after our court date. It was right after I got granted the restraining order, very in the proximity of. He also makes references in other videos I have about a state trooper who's got mauled by a dog, which I'm the only one I know of in the country that got mauled by a dog and their face got ripped off, which he makes note of. There was fake accounts made of my face on his YouTube show that kept posting. There was fake accounts of my fiance, speaking of him as a Pembroke police officer, making references. I've had people, show up at my house because of him.
Ma'am, I want to ask you, what I heard in that is the defendant saying that he's not a tough guy, but that he's going to get revenge. And so can you just explain in the context of that language why you feel like orders of protection are necessary?
Because, Your Honor, he has mental health issues. He's told me he's going to commit suicide if I stop talking to him in the past. I'm physically afraid of him coming either to my mother's, which is 6.6 miles away, literally 6.6 miles away. I'm there a lot during the week, which is Massachusetts. I work in Massachusetts. I had to set up video cameras all around my house. I literally bought a new car. I moved out of Massachusetts because of this man. I don't know what else to do.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. So at this point, is there anything else you'd like to present to the court?
No.
All right, thank you very much. At this point, you can be subject to cross-examination by Attorney 𝗵𝗃. Attorney 𝗵𝗃, do you wish to cross-examine the plaintiff in this matter? All right. Ma'am, would you mind taking the witness stand, please? And I swore everybody in at the beginning, so you're under oath. Thanks very much. Go ahead.
So you referenced a video evidence. Never once was there any other mention, is that correct?
Correct.
And in fact, I believe it was referenced a discredited or dishonorable state trooper. Is that also accurate?
Correct.
And what does that mean?
It means from the blogs that he wrote back about me in 2018.
Okay, what logs in 2018?
All the blogs that he wrote about me regarding my former employment.
And what was that?
I was a Massachusetts State Trooper.
Okay, and what happened with that?
What does this have to do with referencing, sir?
I understand that to be a relevance objection, Attorney Couture.
No, it's completely relevant, Your Honor.
On the
But
basis
I can
of
assure you, credibility, Your Honor. In fact, she was put on a list of over 100 officers. She specifically referenced in the news article that she was put onto a LEAD. The database is called LEAD, Law Enforcement Automatic Discovery. Now has the names of 136 names of law enforcement officers who work, have worked, or could work in Suffolk County. More than 150 names have been added in the last year.
Attorney Couture, I'm gonna let you inquire.
Thank you very much. So, in Massachusetts, you were discharged as a state trooper, is that correct?
Correct.
And why is that?
Attorney Couture, would you mind, if you need to approach the witness, I'm happy to allow you to approach the witness, but it's generally custom to ask your questions from the table.
I'm using Massachusetts. Apologies, Your Honor.
And if you need to show something to the witness, I'm gonna ask you to utilize the services of the bailiff.
Thank you very much. So why were you discharged as a, or you were?
I resigned.
And why is that?
Because I gave up the fight of fighting for my career.
But I approached you about an article published on August 25th, 2018. Can you please read the title of said article?
State Trooper Leigha Genduso resigns after a internal investigation. Given dishonorable discharge.
What was that last part?
Given dishonorable discharge.
Thank you.
Oh,
So this article is saying that you were dishonorably discharged, is that correct?
correct.
And in fact, isn't it true, Mr. Genduso, that you were put on into a database called the Law Enforcement Automatic Discovery? Is that correct, Mr. Genduso?
I believe so. I was never notified of this.
Okay. So I handed you an article dated September 26th of 2020. And through Mass Live, can you please read the title?
More than 100 police officers accused of misconduct added to watch list by Suffolk District Attorney Rachel Rollins.
And can you turn to the second page?
Okay.
There are names of some officers specifically introduced in that article. Do you see one of those names that look familiar, Mr. Genduso?
Yes, and this was for criminal charges in court. I don't know what this has to do with a domestic violence.
Is it also true that it's also for your veracity for telling the truth in court?
From when I was 19 years old, correct?
And how old are you now?
I'm 40.
So you were 19 years old in 2020?
No, the case resolves from when I was 19 years old.
Okay. But what was the subject of the actual dishonorable discharge? The fact that you did not tell the truth.
When I was 19 years old, correct?
And even in 2020, they put you on this list where you should not be believed in court. Is that not correct?
Be due to my resignation, correct?
Counsel, can we move on?
Yes. And isn't it also true, Mr. Genduso, that you're under investigation by the New Hampshire State Police for revenge porn? Is that correct?
I am not.
You're not.
I've never been aware of that.
Okay. And isn't it a fact that there is pornography of my client out on the internet? Is that correct?
So I've heard.
And that was pornography that he sent to you, is that not correct?
He sent me a lot of things. I haven't seen the video, so. He sent a lot of things to a lot of women.
And isn't it true that Mr. Kearney has never struck you?
No,
When did it? I never stated anything in your affidavit said he struck you, is that not correct?
I just said no, sir.
So he has never struck you,
Correct,
is that correct?
correct.
So he's never abused you physically?
No, but the accusations have been there.
What accusation?
Well, the fear of threatening by him, his threats that he's made to me on several occasions, along with contemplating suicide
What
if I
threats?
stop talking to him. If you don't think that's a threat, that's pretty bad.
What threats?
Threats of, he had people come to my house, sir.
Who hit your that she, on her own volition, not from my client, went up to talk with Mr. Genduso.
Attorney 𝗏𝗏, we're in cross-examination mode right now, so if you could cross-examine the witness, I think the pending question is, what threats has the defendant made towards you?
So, if
That's
you-
the pending question, ma'am.
He's made multiple threats at me online for revenge and coming after me, and I don't know if that's physical, but having somebody drive all the way from Westboro, Massachusetts to come to your house at 9:20 at night on a Monday to tell me that I need to call him or else is pretty much a violation of a viable threat.
Did he ever name you in these threats online?
Yes,
And you submitted some of these videos, is that correct? In the
Correct.
evidence?
yep, as well as documentation and papers that I'm not sure that he reviewed.
And there was never a mention of your name, was there?
In the YouTube, no.
No further questions, Your Honor.
You can step down. Thank you. Ms. Genduso, that's the whole of your presentation that I have to consider here today about whether or not to grant your request for orders of protection from this court. I'm going to turn to Attorney Couture on behalf of Mr. Kearney for the opportunity to present evidence if he so desires.
All right, well, I'll call Mr. Kearney to the line.
Mr. Kearney, you're still under oath, so you can just have a seat and respond to the questions of your counsel, okay? Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Can you please state your name?
My name's Ian Carney.
And, Mr. Kearney, what do you do for a living?
I'm a journalist.
And do you specifically go by any website, or where do you do your journalism?
I have two websites, turtleboysports.com and tvdailynews.com.
And in your journalism, can you explain what you do for your journalistic employment?
Yes, we investigate matters of public concern, expose corruption. It's a kind of widely viewed website, and it's been linked in major media outlets such as the Boston Globe, the Washington Post, Mass Live. You've referenced a couple of them. And then about 4 years ago, I became aware that a Massachusetts State Trooper had formerly been a drug dealer, a money launderer, and a perjurer. And I obtained the court documents of those. I published them. That State Trooper was Ms. Genduso. As a result of writing these blogs, she was immediately placed on unpaid leave, and shortly after resigned with a dishonorable discharge. And so that's typical of the kind of stories I write. I've written thousands of blogs like that on matters of public concern.
And this is something that you do under your First Amendment privileges.
That's correct.
And after that story came to light,
Do we have a date about?
when the article was written?
February 19th, 2018.
Thank you very much. And after that article was published, did you have any communication with Mr. Genduso?
Yes. So I kept following up on the story because it was an ongoing matter for several months. She resigned about 6 months after the original blog post was published. And consequently, after that, she reached out to me almost 2 years later in order to almost offer an olive branch, make amends. And she offered to come on my, I do a YouTube live show. And we conducted an interview in February of 2020. It was February 27th of 2020. And I interviewed her, and we were rather cordial considering our past. I mean, she's no longer State Trooper largely because of the investigative journalism that I did. And we got along well, and we kind of became friendly after that. She helped run a charity golf tournament that I was organizing for the Turtleboy. And after that, on September 28th of 2020, I came up and visited her house, and we began having a relationship. And this went on for several months into...
if you don't mind me asking, when did the relationship start?
September 28th of 2020. Yeah, it was...
September 28th, 2020?
Yeah, yes, correct.
Okay. And when did the relationship cease?
January 30th. I don't know if there's an exact date. Maybe late January, early February of 2021. It was somewhat of a casual relationship. It was nothing that serious. She wanted it to be. She wanted me to move out of my house, away from my children. Tried to convince me of that several times. She knew that this was straining on my mental health. Yet she continued to persist. After we ended things in early February, she repeatedly sent me messages threatening to release revenge pornography of me. And
did she ultimately do that?
yeah, on September 12th.
Objection.
Ma'am, the basis for your objection?
There is no evidence documenting anything regarding revenge pornography between the defendant and I.
Respectfully, ma'am, he's testifying right now, so he's offering evidence at this point, so your objection's overruled.
Oh, sorry, sir. Please continue.
So I became aware on September 12th, 2021 on a show called the 𝗏𝗡 Report on YouTube, which is hosted by a former employee of mine. She made reference to a video of me masturbating and began posting still images of it on her show. There were still images from a video that I sent Ms. Genduso on January 27th of 2021 when her and I were still in a relationship of that nature. And I only sent that video to her. I have the exact video. I've printed out pictures of my Facebook conversation in which I sent it to Ms. Genduso, showing that exact video that is now being widely distributed across the internet. She's the only person who had that video. She's the only person who could have sent out that video. And she has also befriended the people that are circulating it everywhere. A few weeks before the video was sent out, she sent me a message on Facebook saying that she wanted me to kill myself instead of being a pussy and a coward and backing out like last time. I believe that is the exact wording she used. She said that, maybe this time you'll do the world a favor and actually kill yourself instead of being a pussy. Yes, I have had issues with depression, anxiety, and she knows that. And so the goal of her releasing this revenge pornography was to get me to commit suicide. And I'm working actively with the Concord police at this time. And there is an open investigation into Ms. Genduso for revenge pornography.
I'm going to have the court officer approach you with a few documents which I've already shown Ms. Genduso. Can you please tell me what those documents are?
Yes. So this is, the first two are screenshots of a conversation between her and I that began on the 26th, January 26th, 2021, in which she tells me, face ones are better for sure because then I can watch you come. So she asked me to send a video of myself masturbating with my face in it so she could see my facial expressions when I climax. And so I did, and there's an image of deleted, luckily, of me. And she comments like, "Oh my God, I passed out, but good morning, LOL." And that video is now the one that is being widely distributed. After that, these are posts from a gentleman she has befriended named Michael Gaffney, who I have personal history with. Michael Gaffney here in this Facebook post. This is a screenshot of me naked in my basement on FaceTime. Her and I used to FaceTime together, and she would get me to perform while I was on FaceTime. Unbeknownst to me, she was screenshotting pictures of it, and she has now released those pictures because there's no other way Michael Gaffney could have gotten this. Also in this screenshot, in this picture, her face is in the top right-hand corner of it, which you could only do if you were the one on the FaceTime taking that screenshot. And so she obviously is the only person that could have distributed this to Michael Gaffney. And this right here is just an example of one of dozens, if not hundreds, of Twitter accounts that have my naked pictures on them of me masturbating. They're all over the internet. They've been sent to friends, family, and again, the stated goal of her when she sent them out was to get me to actually kill myself instead of being a pussy like last time and not following through. This is a picture of the post that was going around. This is the FaceTime conversation. How FaceTime works, if you're on her end, what she would see me in the middle like this, and then your face would be in the top right-hand corner. And so, because you can see your face up there, you know that this could only have come from her phone, because this is a FaceTime conversation between her and I, which I believe she's actually in the tub, but I'm naked there in front of a green screen, and this was after we had finished. And I had no idea that she was going to be taking pictures of me. I never would have consented to that. And she held on to them in order to basically try to get me to kill myself.
So, after you broke up, she kept making threats about releasing this revenge porn.
Oh, several times, yes.
And how often would she send you messages?
Early on in February, it was quite frequent. She wanted to remain friends, and I did not. And so I told her that this is not good for my mental health right now. I'm going to therapy. I can't talk to you. My therapist has recommended that I just, get rid of you from my life. And so I blocked her on social media. This upset her. She sent messages to me saying, like, you blocked me like a coward. And then, as a result of that, she had to begin sending me messages from burner phone numbers, in which she called me one time on February 26th from a burner phone number account after threatening me. Soon then came after fake Facebook pages. Every couple months, I got one from a woman named, it was her under an alias Karen Cook on Facebook. That was the one where she told me that she was going to get me to kill myself by releasing the revenge pornography. On September 1st, I received a message from one of her accounts she has an account called 𝗵𝗄𝗄𝗎. It's the �MISSOHOWNIE. That is one of her alternate accounts. And I could read, yeah.
I have to.
If I could read the Karen Cook one too, just so I know the exact.
So I show you a document, Mr. Curry. Can you please tell me what that is?
So this is a message that she sent me on September 1st after her fiance called me on the phone and messaged me on Facebook, and we had a conversation. And I alerted him to the threats that I've been receiving from Ms. Genduso for several months now. And he expressed dismay. He said he couldn't believe it. He specifically asked me for relationship advice, wanted to know, what should I do? Should I break up with her? I'm living with somebody who I don't even really know clearly. So she sent me a message after I spoke with him, and she said, and this is what really set her off the edge when I spoke to her fiance and he called me. And she said, "Stand by for an epic atomic bomb. You reap what you sow. foolish move, Aiden. So foolish. I'll give up everything to destroy you. Game on. That is from the 𝗵𝗂𝗍𝗍 account. She admitted in Leominster District Court on September 24th that she did indeed send this message. In case it needs further clarification, here are messages from Leah's actual account on Facebook saying, my new name is 𝗵𝗂𝗍𝗍. Here's another one she posted from the 𝗵𝗂𝗍𝗍 account that says, I'm back. I caved and finally made a fake name. 7 more days in Facebook jail. Signed, Leigha Genduso. Another one that says, from 𝗵𝗂𝗍𝗍, talking about personal matters. So she frequently, whenever her account gets suspended, she would use the 𝗵𝗂𝗍𝗍 account. I was aware that she sent me this message telling me this. And then, so when she sends this one with the 𝗵𝗂𝗍𝗍, she knows that I know this is her. She's admitted that it's her. And shortly after sending this message about the epic atomic bomb, I'll give up everything to destroy you, that is when she released the revenge pornography of me.
Yeah. You testified that Ms. Genduso's boyfriend contacted you, is that correct?
That's correct.
And do you know what his name is?
His name is 𝗺𝗿𝗄𝗺.
Attorney Couture, can I just say,
Yes.
the obligation of this court is to determine whether or not abuse occurred within the meaning of 173B and whether or not the defendant constitutes a credible present threat to the plaintiff. So can you tell me where we're going with
Yes,
this?
this just goes to show that the abused person here, Your Honor, Mr. Kirk, not Mr. Genduso. She can't tell. Anytime when my client ever physically abused her, there's issues online where she indicates that, oh, he's talking about me, but there's no references to that.
So you're abundantly making this point. If I could just ask you to make it succinctly,
Okay.
and then address the issues of abuse and credible present threat, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Kirk, have you ever physically struck Mr. Genduso?
No,
And are you known as a violent person?
not at all.
And have you ever had any kind of issues with police presence or anything, either with former girlfriends, current girlfriends, anything like that?
Nothing like that.
Okay, so Mr. Genduso never had to call the police on you.
Never.
And have you ever made any kind of threats to her, either online or in text message forms?
No, I'm the exact opposite. I've been trying. I'm scared of her. That's why I filed for a restraining order in Leominster District Court. And she actually filed this order on September 24th in retaliation for that. Because how dare I try to get an order on her. So this was all retaliation. I've never threatened her. I've never sent anyone to do that. I wanted nothing to do with her at all. And the fact that I've cut her out of my life is what has set her off the edge. And this is just the latest example of her trying to intimidate me, trying to scare me, and use the courts to do so.
Thank you, sir. No further questions.
Thank you, Attorney Couture. Ma'am, this is your opportunity, if you wish, to cross-examine the defendant, and so I'm going to give you the opportunity to do that.
All right, Aiden.
So, ma'am, we have this tradition of asking our questions from the table.
Okay.
The bailiff is available in case you need anything handed to the defendant during the course of your cross-examination. Thank you.
During our relationship, when we broke up, so did you not ask for all the recordings of our messages on YouTube, on Facebook Messenger, due to you deleting the messages before because your wife was looking at your laptop?
Yes, I did ask you for the recording of
How
our.
many times did you ask for those recordings?
A few times, I don't
Say
know.
about 10, correct?
What?
About 10 times?
I don't know.
Ma'am, totally good cross-examination means you ask him a question, you give him the chance to respond. And then you can wait for the response, and then if you have a follow-up question, definitely ask that. Do you follow me? Thank you.
You don't think it was 10 times?
You asked me, I asked you for the screen recordings of our previous conversations. You said you would provide them for me. You sent them intermittently, a couple here, a couple there, and I would say, you have more of those. Sorry if this is bothering you. I would just like those for my records, and then we can move on.
How many times did you reach out to me for those?
We were having an ongoing conversation, so it was part of a conversation that you and I were having.
So roughly 10 times.
No, I don't know the exact amount of times, but it was part of an ongoing conversation.
It was multiple times up to 10. Do you know who 𝗕𝗏𝗴𝗃 is?
𝗕𝗏𝗴𝗃, yes.
Who is 𝗕𝗏𝗴𝗃?
𝗕𝗏𝗃 is the mother of 𝗵𝗏𝗴𝗃's daughter.
Do you know who Clarence Emerson Woods is?
You mean Clarence Woods Emerson?
Yes.
That is an alias that I use on Facebook.
Did you or did you not contact 𝗕𝗏𝗴𝗃 under Clarence Emerson Woods?
No, I actually didn't use that one to contact her.
Okay. So why was your account being used to contact her? Your Honor, any evidence of the documents that shows that he did actually contact 𝗕𝗏𝗴𝗃, which is my fiance's ex of mother of his child.
I think Attorney Couture is going to ask what the relevance of this testimony
The
is.
relevance is he contacted Ms. Perry multiple times, stating that her daughter's going to get mauled by the dogs that I work with, and giving her multiple accusational things, stating that his daughter is in danger and she should be in fear for her life because of me. But it's him attacking my family, is the basis of it. He's been going multiple times, including the documents. He's gone after them and harassed.
I'll permit the question, Ms. Genduso.
So you're saying you never contacted 𝗕𝗏𝗴𝗃?
No, I spoke with her.
How many times?
Spoke with her once,
Just once.
just once.
The documentation is different. Karen Cook, well, first off, strike that. Holden PD, did you make a report in Holden?
Yes, I did.
Okay, what was it in regards to?
Revenge pornography.
And what happened with that case?
I found out the hard way that Massachusetts is one of 4 states that does not have revenge pornography laws. Luckily, New Hampshire does, and you sent the revenge porn from New Hampshire, which is why you're
What was the conclusion?
under
of the case
investigation.
In Holden, by the detective?
I just told you.
Okay, the conclusion of the case made the court aware it was dismissed due to lack of evidence.
That's not true. I mean, is she asking me questions or?
Ma'am, this is your opportunity for cross-examination. If you want any opportunity for rebuttal, you can offer rebuttal testimony, but this is your opportunity to ask questions of the defense.
To be clear about that, Your Honor,
I'm sorry, there's not a pending question.
Okay.
So, on that FaceTime allegations that you brought to Holden PD regarding the green screen picture, was there any naked photo in that green screen picture? Because all I could see is your chest and your hat.
Yeah, I'm naked in that.
There's no,
You,
is there evidence of showing that you're naked in that picture?
no, but you had just watched me masturbate.
Okay, is there evidence of that in that picture that you were masturbating?
Well, I have no shirt on in my basement.
People have no shirts on in their house. So, the threats of suicide that I allegedly sent you, do you have evidence of that? Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Okay.
That's,
Your Honor, he stated to the court with his attorney that I said that.
Yeah,
I wanted to
overruled.
kill myself.
you can ask the question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Do you have evidence of me contacting you stating I want you to kill yourself, you know?
Oh, yes, I do.
Where is that?
The Karen, you sent me under the Karen Cook account, your shape. What was that? I don't have that one. I don't.
Your Honor, that's not my name.
So, Your Honor, on September 24th, the Leominster District Court, the judge specifically asked her, when I presented the Karen Cook messages in court, the judge asked her, did you send all of these messages? And she,
That was me, so Warrior.
excuse me. So they said, do you admit to sending all of these messages? She said, yes.
Objection.
Can I finish now?
Well, Ms. Genduso, you opened the door to this line of inquiry. I think your question was, do you have any evidence that I asked you to commit suicide? And I think he's allowed the opportunity to respond to your question. If you could just narrow your response to what she asked you.
Yeah, we do have evidence. The Karen Cook message that you admitted in Leominster District Court that you sent specifically tells me that you want me to kill myself.
Okay, so you're telling me that I admitted to being Karen Cook in Leominster because that is not correct?
Yeah, you did.
No,
We
that
can
was
pull the
the
transcripts if you like.
Can you guys stop,
I have
please?
one more.
Okay.
Who's Kimberly Lynn?
Who is Kimberly Lynn? She's somebody I've never met in real life. She's a Facebook friend.
Wasn't she a former blogger or yours as North Shore Journal?
Yes, she was.
Did you not send illicit pictures and sexual messages to Kimberly Lynn online?
Did I send it to Kimberly Lynn? We had a friendship.
Did you not send her illicit pictures or sexual conversations online?
No illicit pictures, no.
No.
No, that's correct.
Have you sent illicit pictures to other women before online?
No,
You've never told me that you sent pictures. And
I've
videos
never
online?
done that. Just you. You're the only one that has that video.
You are. Can I just make note that he has told me 1,000% baby?
Not right now.
Thank you.
You can step down.
Thank you.
You can take it. Anything further, Attorney Couture?
No, Your Honor.
Anything in rebuttal, ma'am? All right, thank you very much. I'm going to take this matter under